Last run workout for everybody here. Back in the office. Um, and some of you guys saw pictures of some of the books that I have up here on Instagram the other day. That was kind of interesting. I was pressing tofu, and I got to see some interesting array of books that I have. Anyway, brick runs, okay? Couple things here. First, short course versus long course. I talk all the time about how it's not about for the race. It's not about training for the race. It's about training the athlete. But there are different demands for different races, and especially the more competitive you are. If you're, intermediate, advanced, then running off the bike in a short course race is going to be very different. Feels very different than long course. So, worth noting as to which one you're doing. I'm going to talk about long course here specifically. If you have questions about short course running, definitely message me and I'll do my best to answer. So brick runs for long course triathlon training, half full distance. I think one of the big things is that people get way too focused on it and they do way too much of it. And like I say all the time, I'll probably say this in almost every article, doing one thing one way all the time is not good. It's not going to be good for you. Every training method has kind of a bell curve to it. You do too much, it starts to kind of not work so well at the least, or be even have a negative effect. So be careful with that. The other thing is, like I said, with the long run stuff, if you're constantly running on tired legs all the time, and I actually did this one season, is I was always either doing a brick run or even another harder run that I would do with a group. I often did that evening after doing a hard bike workout in the afternoon. I was always running on tired legs. And if you want to get really good at running shitty and running slow, then run on tired legs all the time. So run fresh more, like I said. But brick runs, very important. We want to know maybe some transition practice, but we also want to be able to be confident, comfortable with running off of the bike. Couple little warning notes here. Don't try and mimic the event. I'm going to write that down for you guys. I'm going to show you guys some notes afterwards. I've said this before. Don't try to mimic your event when you're doing a long course race, because you can't. And if you can, do it in training without really needing a week of recovery, then you probably don't need to. So what I'm referring to is don't try to do a half-mile swim or a 1.2 mile swim, and then ride 56 miles at pace and then run 9 or 10 miles at pace. You're basically doing a race. And so I just talked to somebody who has this training plan for an Ironman, and they said to swim 2.4 miles in the morning, go home and have breakfast, and then go run 112 miles at race pace, and then go home after that and chill out for a little bit, get some food, recovery, hydrate, and then go out and do a 3-mile run or a 3-hour run. I said, do not do that. So don't try to mimic your event. You can't do it, okay? But the brick run, all you really need, people have talked about doing, all you need is a 10-minute brick run. All you need is a 15-minute brick run. And that is very true to a certain point. I think you can do that a lot to get that neuromuscular kind of adaptation and simply familiarity with what's it going to feel like to run off the bike. I just want to be more comfortable with it. The physical adaptation of doing a brick is questionable. It's more mental of I'm more comfortable with this. I am now more fit because of all this training, and so I'm more comfortable running off the bike. It feels better and I'm more confident. So, and that's still valid. So for long course brick runs, don't get into this. I'm going to do like an hour and a half brick run. It is really kind of way too much, especially if you're a newer athlete and you're like, well, I'm a newer athlete. I really need to experience what this is going to be like. you're likely to just terrify yourself by doing a long ride and a long brick run. I've prescribed this a couple of times to people years and years and years ago, and after they did it, I immediately regretted it because it just wasn't good training. And while they did get a bit of experience as to what is it really going to feel like to do an Ironman, you still can't. You're still not coming close to what it's really like to do a full distance race. Full, Ironman, 140.6 miles. So don't try to mimic it. Be careful with the bricks. Less brick runs. Okay, run more on fresh legs and learn to run better. That is super important. Super important. Okay. Next, if you're an average to a good brick runner at long course races, or doing brick runs off the bike in training where you're running relatively slow at a half or full distance pace, then what we're going to focus on more is running at race pace with your brick runs. If you're a bad brick runner, at long course again, meaning it might take you a few miles to get into your rhythm and find your pace coming off of the bike in a half or a full distance race. Then we can add some spicy runs. We can add some faster running off the bike. If you're not a good runner in short course races, as an experiment, or just if you're doing short course races in training, which I highly recommend, I could totally get into that and a whole nother thing, which I won't right now. Meaning you don't run at the appropriate pace for a sprint, or you don't run at the appropriate pace for a full, then you could do some spicier brick runs. So interval brick runs, some faster paced brick running, to kind of get that neuromuscular adaptation. This is a big topic. I could go down a big rabbit hole here with what should your pace be, and then why aren't you running that pace off the bike in the short course races or long course? Are you overdoing the bike? Is this an execution thing? So this brings up a whole nother topic. But if you're pretty good, in other words, it always hurts to run off the bike in a short course race because you're just so at your limit anyway. But in long course races, if you're one of those people that comes off the bike and even if you're not feeling super great at that point in time because of the weather, or maybe you did go a little bit too hard, you find yourself running at least at pace or even faster than you should, and you have to slow down, which is a common thing, then practice running at race pace. I think the short 10 to 30-minute brick runs are great for just adding in a little volume, getting in a little more run volume, like that overall run volume, like I talked about in the long run video, is great. If you want to do a brick run where you really get a sense of what's my heart rate doing, can I get a long enough run where my heart rate settles at a certain pace, so I can see whether this is going to be sustainable or not, then you need to do a brick run that I think is at least 30 minutes. You might want to get up into that 45 minute range. And the mental part of that is you want to do a brick run that's long enough to where when you start, the end isn't just in sight. So a lot of people, when you do a 10-minute brick run, you don't really have to be super tough to do that. Also, your heart rate might keep going up that whole 10 minutes, and it's not going to plateau off. And so one of the brick workout, it's not necessarily a workout, but it's more a prescription of what I give for people for brick workouts sometime that are doing long course is brick run, quick transition. It might be up to 40 minutes, 30 minutes, up to 45, like I said. And I will tell them to run with their heart rate in zone 2. Not averaging zone 2 over the course of the run, because you end up in zone 3 and it's still going up. But get your heart rate to actually plateau and stay in zone 2. And then see what pace you're running. See how it feels. And often that can be a really good indicator as to what an athlete can run close to in an Ironman. Because you're gonna have that heart rate kind of in zone 2 for a full, and then if you're doing a half, you're gonna be in that zone 3 area, that kind of tempo area. And so you could also do that with the half, which I'll do is brick run. If you're doing a half Ironman, brick run with your heart rate in zone 3 and get it to stay there. And that can give you an idea of what is going to be possible to run. It can also give you an idea of whether you did not pace the bike well or didn't fuel very well or didn't eat enough. And so those are some good kind of methods to use for some long course brick running. And then I'm going to show you just some notes here of what we just went over. So here we go, some notes just on what we talked about. Short course versus long course. Yes, it's more about the individual, but it's good to take into consideration what you're doing and also your ability level. If you need to get off the bike and run really, really fast, then it's a little bit different than long course and how you're going to train. So talking about long course, don't try to mimic your event. Don't get into these big, epic, long brick runs. Don't get too focused on that. And in general, a lot of what I see is people just doing brick runs every single time. And those real short ones I think are okay, but get better at running. Do more fresh runs, okay? And then depending on how you are as a brick runner, good versus bad. Again, if you're bad, try to figure out why. Might not necessarily be your run. And then if you're kind of a bad brick runner, then try to do some spicy bricks, some faster paced bricks, or some short intervals. A 30-30 workout that I talked about might be a good option as a brick for long course even. And then, like I said, the heart rate. I think that heart rate thing and is a great kind of method and tool to use for using those brick runs. So there you go. Couple thoughts on brick runs for you guys. Hope you enjoy.